Agriculture Minister Barnaby Joyce has just begun this media conference in Canberra.
Good falls of rain in the Western Districts of New South Wales as well, so that's a bit of a blessing. But the reason we're here today is part of the coordination of the eradication or the control, at the very least, of wild dogs. This is an issue that I've taken as one of my sort of personal causes, as whilst I have the great honour of being the Agricultural Minister. And what we have announcing today is further details and further access via an online component through PestSmart, so that we can get better information out to those people who are dealing with the wild dog problem. The people who are dealing with the wild dog problem, a lot of people may say, oh, well, that's farmers out west. We have stories of wild dogs and the problems they create, even with domestic pets at the Gold Coast, on the edge of the Gold Coast. We have information of when people's own pets have been literally devoured, eaten. All we've found of them is basically where they've got their head out of the way and the rest of their body has been eaten. We've also got it right up into the edge of Brisbane, Mount Cootha, where we've tried to reintroduce koala populations. The wild dogs have cleaned that up. So wild dogs have the capacity, and I've seen it myself, where I've gone down the road in the morning past a mob of sheep and come back up the road in the afternoon past a heap of carcasses. Wild dogs believe in surplus kill. They don't actually kill to eat. They kill some to eat, and they kill because they enjoy killing. In many instances, we have this immense cruelty of them just eating the kidneys out of a sheep and then leaving the sheep alive to struggle and die. For this reason, for animal husbandry reasons, and also for trying to get productivity back into our Western Districts, it's extremely important that we manage and control, and where best we can, eradicate the wild dog problem. The wild dog problem is one of the reasons we can't get wool back into certain areas. And we have wool prices now that are at a 4-year high, in some instances in money terms, but not in real terms, they're at record levels. We've had sheep at record prices. We've had cattle. We've got cattle at record prices. With wild dogs, you can basically forget about having a lambing. The wild dogs will just eradicate any ewe that's trying to lamb, and whilst she's incapacitated and the lamb is young, they'll just clean the lamb and the sheep up. Some people think, oh, well, it doesn't affect the cattle population. Well, it does. You can take weaning rates down below 40% because it's the same thing. Wild dogs will, as I've said, will also clean up other dogs. They'll clean up your own pets. So this is something that I wrote op-eds to the Canberra Times when I was in opposition, and now that I have this incredible opportunity to be the minister, to work with these incredible people in doing our best to take hold of this problem and try our very best to deal with it. It's not just this website, it's also the money that, with the Prime Minister, that we put on the table in the Western Districts, especially in the drought districts. We put $25 million on the table for pest control, and $35 million on the table to assist those regional communities. And many of these regional communities have just come back and said, well, one of the big things that we need to do for the economy of our area, for the sustenance of our area, is control wild dogs. Now, this is by the construction of fences, but we also have to have baiting programs that are effective to eliminate the wild dogs. We have to have the capacity and the credentials to actually track down the wild dogs, and these people, unremarkably, are called doggers, but there's a real skill in it, in actually being able to find the dogs. We have trapping. We have different traps now. And in my shed, when I was a kid, we had big steel traps with almost like man killers. But now we have a more humane form of trapping, but it has the same purpose, that is to get the animal and to kill it. I believe now that the Australian people are actually on the same page, and they understand that this is, to be honest, it's a noble cause to try and bring better animal husbandry, to reinvest in the economies of the Western Districts and get them revitalised again by getting the shearers back out there and the wool clip back out there and the money back out there, and also to assist people in the peri-urban areas and the semi-urban areas who are also saying loud and clear to us, don't just talk about the Western Districts when you talk about the wild dog problem, talk about the Blue Mountains, talk about the Gold Coast, talk about Brisbane, talk about anywhere near a national park. Now I want to hand over to Greg Misford, who's an expert in this area, to give some of the aspects of how this new website, or not this current website, updated website will work, and how our program is currently rolling out. And in short order, we'll have more to say about this cause and how this government has really grasped the nettle and said, if there's one issue that we can be marked on with so many others. It's our attention to trying to deal with the wild dog issue. Over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Minister. So through the Invasive Animals CRC, we've now developed this new Pest Connect website. The website itself contains a range of information on the best control techniques, ecology and behaviour of a range of pest animals, not just wild dogs. One of the things that came through on my project, which is a national coordination role on wild dog control, is that landholders wanted access to very succinct and easy to understand information on current best practice control techniques so that they could make far better decisions on how to go about undertaking their wild dog control programs. A big part of getting effective control in place is getting a range of landholders to work collectively. Wild dogs, the same as pigs and foxes, are a highly mobile species. They move across boundaries, they move across property boundaries, they move across state borders, they move across private public land boundaries. So the whole point of delivering effective control involves using or getting as many landholders together to deliver the control as possible and using a range of techniques. And the PestSmart Connect website provides information on all of those techniques. As was discussed by the Minister, wild dogs and small stocks simply don't mix. Wild dogs are one of the only pest animals in Australia that will actually force someone out of their chosen industry. We've seen the sheep numbers in Queensland decline significantly over the last 10 to 15 years as a consequence of wild dogs. We've also seen a lot of the major areas and traditional wool growing areas of the country are now suffering significant impacts. And as discussed earlier, those dogs are also moving and encroaching into peri-urban environments. We're seeing impacts on domestic pets at a higher rate. We're seeing wild dogs being forced into smaller remnant patches of vegetation where we've got koalas and other species that are trying to reside in those fragmented landscapes, and they're causing significant impacts on biodiversity as well. So the PestSmart Connect website's there to provide those community groups and individual landholders with the information so that they can go forth, work with their neighbouring properties and deliver the most effective programs they can in order to mitigate those impacts on their livestock and their production. So.
Andreas?
No, that's,
Andreas,
that's fine. Yes, so look, I'm Andreas Clancy. I'm the Chief Executive of the Invasive Animals CRC. Look, it's a fabulous initiative. PestSmart Connect really does provide a wealth of information to landholders, and we'd like to thank the Minister for sponsoring the augmentation of PestSmart Connect to enable us to really grow the wild dog management side of things. So, thank you.
I'll start, and before you launch into the whole range of questions, I imagine none of them will be on wild dogs. But a wild dog that was actually collared near Charleville was shot at the back of Moree. That gives you an idea of the sort of range that these animals can cover. So this is something that if you just think the problem will stay somewhere else, well, it's on the move and moving to you. Any questions?
Mr. Joyce, have you been cautioned against claiming credit for high commodity prices on behalf of the government, given that commodity prices also drop and that could be also reflect on the government negatively?
Well, I'm happy to say that under this government and part and parcel of the management, not solely because of this government, but because of issues such as the free trade agreements, the 60 live animal destinations, low interest rates, an effective process of getting our protocols in place so we can develop markets, being proactive and actually loving the portfolio of agriculture rather than just passing through it. We now, and also because of global demand and because of a low dollar, have the highest cattle prices on record. We have had the highest wool prices in 4 years in some instances, in dollar terms, not real terms, on record. We've had the highest sheep prices, live sheep prices on record. They've eased off a bit now. We've got strong cotton prices. We've got strong grain prices. We have, since the GFC, seen a massive turnaround in our exports of agricultural product. I think it's in excess of about 36% turnaround in the value of our exports. So in the agricultural sector, this will be judged by our actions and judged by the numbers. I know that with bad policy decisions, you could wreck this. You could make the same mistakes that have been made in the past, and those mistakes can absolutely decimate your soft commodity prices. Every day we come to work to try and get a better return through the farm gate. And in the past, when we made predictions such as that the price of cattle will go above $3 a kg live in the yards, and that we said that over 18 months ago, people said, you don't know what you're talking about, that will never happen. Well, it's there. I don't want to sort of start discussing the ways that you can wreck it, but there's a whole range of them out there. You could be destroying the live animal trade. You could not be diligent in getting through your free trade agreements. You could not be successful in putting together protocols. You could not be proactive about going backwards and forth to nations to see these deals through. But we're doing the other. We are making sure that the deals happen. We are making sure that the fair return goes back through the farm gate, goes back through to our farmers. And even being here today talking about wild dogs, we're talking about how we get a better capitalisation of the environment that we're currently in with record prices.
Barnaby, do you support banning foreign governments and state-owned enterprises buying farmland? And is that the government's official position or just your own?
Well, thank you very much for the question. At any National Party conference, we have a free and open discussion, and the discussion on the weekend revolved around Kidman and Co. It is an issue that is of high interest, not just in regional areas but across Australia. And as a member of the National Party, at any of these conferences, you have the capacity to speak your mind. It's why I joined the National Party. We believe in the liberty of the individual and the freedom of expression and your capacity to go to the floor, stand behind a microphone and present your view. That is why, if I didn't believe in that, I could join a whole range of other parties which don't give you that opportunity. Now, might I say, it stands to reason that the preference for the Australian people is that the Australian family owns the Australian farm. That would be a natural enough belief because it's also held in the urban areas where the Australian family wants to own the house in the suburbs. And we've had inquiries into precisely that. I think that it ultimately, when people discuss state-owned enterprises, it is not unusual. In fact, it is both the policy of this government and the previous government that the assessment of state-owned enterprises starts at $1. $1. What I can tell you quite clearly is there's a vast difference between the policy of this government and the policy of the alternative government in that they believe in raising the foreign investment threshold for an individual from around $250 million to $1,000 million, $1 billion, before they even ask a question. Under the Labor Party, Kidman and Co. could be sold to a foreign entity, to a foreign individual, and it wouldn't even have to go to FIRB. It wouldn't even have to go to FIRB. And that is an absurdity and shows in clear contrast how we make sure that our borders are strong and that we want a strong understanding and strong transparency and strong control on who owns what in our nation.
You're clearly at odds with the Prime Minister on this, though, aren't you? And you're a Cabinet Minister and you're sort of freelancing on the weekends, and now you're completely at odds with what your leader says.
Well, I don't think that I don't find it surprising at all that within the National Party you have the freedom and the liberty to express your views at a conference. That's what we do. If other people have a different view, that's fine, and there are other parties to represent them.
Mr. Joyce, we weren't at the conference, most of us weren't. Can you please articulate your personal view on the understanding that it is your personal view and not the view of the government?
Well, my personal view always is I prefer the Australian people to be the holder of the Australian asset. And I've said this quite clearly throughout my political career. I've said that I'll always go into bat to make sure that the Australian farm is owned overwhelmingly by the Australian family. It's what I believe in, a stronger return back through the farm gate for the Australian family, because they are the people who sent me to Canberra.
Is that a blanket ban against state-owned enterprises?
Well, the concerns that revolve around state-owned enterprises are not peculiar to this government or the previous government. That is why there is a dollar limit before it is investigated to see whether it is contrary to the national interest.
Are you satisfied the current foreign investment regime is tight enough to achieve your personal?
I'm absolutely happy that we are tightening. We are tightening the control and we are finding out who owns what. Because in this nation, I've been asked the question today, how much of Australia is foreign owned? And the question is, we don't know. We don't know. And we found that also in suburban housing, where they said, well, we thought everybody was obeying the rules, but they weren't.
Mr. Joyce, are you calling for a blanket ban on state-owned enterprises owning farmland?
I believe that I have the right at a conference to express my views, because that's what a National Party conference is about. But the position of Cabinet is the position of a collective of people.
Do you think you need a better strategy?
I don't talk about what I raise in Cabinet and what I don't.
Do you think this debate also, you need a strategy about how much Australian land we can afford to have in foreign ownership and agribusiness?
Well, I think everybody. I don't think there's a person around anywhere who'd say that there should be no limits whatsoever. Otherwise, technically, you could sell the whole of Australia off to a state-owned enterprise and it wouldn't be a problem. But I don't think anybody would accept that, and it certainly wouldn't get you elected to Parliament.
Do you think your views have support within Cabinet?
I don't discuss Cabinet.
The government's doing a lot to crack down on foreign investors buying into existing residential properties. Do you think they should be doing more to actively crack down on foreigners buying farmland?
Well, there's two parts of that. Yes, and we are. That is why we are reducing the threshold. We've reduced the threshold from around about 250 down to 15 for individuals and to around about 53 or 56, I think, now for agribusiness. So the answer is we are. The only way that you can turn it around so the opposite happens is if the Labor Party wins the next election, because they will take it to $1 billion before a question is asked. So if you want no questions asked till a person owns over $1 billion worth of our rural asset, we'll vote for the Labor Party, because that's what you'll get.
Okay, we've got to wind it up because there's another event over here and I'm getting grief from...
And that's my division. Sorry, guys. Okay.
Okay, wrapping it up there. That was live from Parliament House in Canberra. The Agriculture Minister, Barnaby Joyce, talking about measures to address the wild dog problem, and he's launched an upgraded online resource, PestSmart.org.au. But also questioned there about reports today that he said he supported banning all foreign governments and foreign state-owned companies from buying Australian farmland.